Thank you. Good morning. How y'all doing today? Everybody's good? All right. Hi, Kelly. My name is Jay Worth. I am the marketing manager at Single Ops. And so who am I? Anne-Marie mentioned I've got 15, 20 years of green industry experience. I've done everything in the field from installations, maintenance, hardscaping, turf care, a lot of sales and marketing for the industry, and then also had to build my own team from the ground up at an 8-figure full-service landscaper. So that's why I'm here. I'm not here because I'm a software guy. I'm here because I'm a green industry guy. And I've worked in these businesses, and I love the industry very much. If in case you're not familiar with Single Ops, I promise this is not going to be a commercial, but just in case you're not familiar with it, it's end-to-end business management. It's built specifically for the green industry. You can enter customer info, schedule an estimator, propose the work, email it to the customer and get approval, offer financing, in-app, schedule equipment and crews, manage timesheets and work orders at the crew level, invoice, and get paid all in the same place. So it's pretty complete. I don't actually do anything with the software, which is what I love about my job. As I mentioned, I'm a green industry guy. So Single Ops really wants to elevate the industry. They really have a passion for making sure that landscape companies, tree care companies are equipped to succeed in business. And so they made an offer to me. They actually approached me and said, hey, you've got industry experience. You're pretty articulate. Would you be interested in creating content for us? So I write our blogs. We create free resources. There are downloadable best practice guides that are absolutely free on our website. How to streamline your sales process, how to nail your marketing. Kelly probably is a good resource for that. Employee recruiting and retention, obviously. Change management. If you have to make a structural change to the way you operate your business, there's a guide for that. And then reporting, how to use data and who in your company by role should be looking at what reports. All of those resources are free on our website. And I host our podcast. If you're not familiar with our podcast, we have a podcast called Green Industry Perspectives. It is designed to help you. There's no pitch for Single Ops in there, so please go check that out. Now, before we dive in, I want to tell you a story, okay? You meet John. Say hi to John, everybody. Hi, John. John's a young man out there in the world. He's looking to start a new job. Maybe he's between semesters of college. Maybe he's going straight into the workforce, and he's had an office job and really hates sitting in an office. I think a lot of us can relate to that. And so he's looking for a place to use his intellect, his talents, his energy to contribute and get ahead in the world. And he loves being outside. He's an avid hiker. And so someone suggests to him landscaping. And so he's like, oh, yeah, cool. I can get into landscaping. So he goes to Indeed or Monster, ZipRecruiter, pick your flavor, right? And he starts looking for landscaping jobs. And they all say kind of the same thing. They all say, you got to have the ability to lift 50 pounds. You must be able to work in all weather conditions. You've got to be able to be on your feet all day. That's not particularly appealing to John, right? Like, that's not exactly like, yes, let me sign up for that. But he just gives it a shot anyway, and he puts in several applications. And a week later, one of them finally calls him back. He put in 7 or 8, and one company finally calls him back. So he goes in for an interview. And the owner or GM, somebody calls him and says, hey, can you come in for an interview? And he goes in. He gets there on time, sits down. He's filling out a paper application for some reason and having to text friends and ask for references and all of these things. The guy's 40 minutes late for the interview. The interviewer is late and barely apologizes. And when he does sit down and talk to him, finally he says, all right, here's what our company's about. We're about quality, we're about integrity, and we're about service. You have a problem with any of those values? John's like, no, I'm an honest person. I want to do a good job. I want to serve people. Yeah, I'm on board. And so the guy just kind of grunts in response. The rest of the interview focuses on if he can pass a drug screen. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Can he pass a drug screen? Does he have a valid driver's license? Is he allowed to work in the U.S.? So John clears those hurdles and finally gets a job offer. The owner, GM, whoever it is, the guy didn't even introduce himself, tells John to be in the next morning at 6:30 sharp. He's going to start at $14 an hour, and he makes sure to tell John this is a temporary position. Once you're up past your probationary period, you feel me, dude. You know what I'm saying? You know John. We all know John. That's the point, right? So it's a probationary period, and after 90 days, we'll consider you for full-time employment. Now John's kind of confused. Like, why'd you go out of the way to point out you're giving yourself an out to fire me? Right? So John shows up the next morning at 6:15. He's there early. He goes wandering around in the building, around the yard. The guy that interviewed him is nowhere to be found, right? He can't find this dude that interviewed him. So he finally finds some people that look like they're in the same uniform, and he asks one of them, hey, I'm new here. What should I do? Nobody answered him. Finally, one of the guys grunts and points across the yard and says, go talk to Mike. You know, Mike's this big, huge guy with a big old beard standing out in the yard. So he goes up and introduces himself. Hi, I'm John. I'm the new hire here. Random guy I talked to yesterday said to be here today. And Mike just looks him up and down and says, you can lift 50 pounds? Yeah, I can lift 50 pounds. All right, you're going to ride with Miguel today. Miguel will teach you everything you need to know. You're with me, dude. You're with me. So John goes and gets in Miguel's vehicle, and communication is a challenge. English is Miguel's second language. John barely remembers his high school Spanish. Several times throughout the day, Miguel is muttering to himself in Spanish or to the other guys on the crew, and John's kind of frustrated by the end of the day, right? Like it's a rough day. After a couple of days, though, his high school Spanish starts coming back, and things, the crew seems to respond to his attempts to communicate with them, and they're learning some English, he's learning from them. Everything starts sailing a little smoother. Until one day, about a weekend, John comes into work, and Miguel's out sick. He called in, whatever. He's not there that day. And Mike tells him, you're going to ride with Tony today. Well, Tony is like a totally different beast, right? So Tony's got to shovel stuff out of his work truck to wedge John in. He's barely got enough room for his lunchbox and his legs. On the way to the first job site, nobody in the truck, not even Tony, talks to John. And when they get there, John starts to get out the weed eater. He gets out to start doing the job like he would always do every other day with Miguel. And Tony barks at him. He's like, what are you doing? John's like, I'm going to start the edging the way I do every day. And Tony says, that dumb Miguel, he trained you wrong. On my crew, we all mow first, and then we edge and blow as a group. Got it? And he storms off. Well, John's like, all right, fine, so whatever. Well, after that job's done, he gets in the truck to hear Tony on the phone with Mike complaining. Didn't anybody train this new guy the right way? Didn't we talk about quality on day one? What's the point of these new hires? Blah, blah, blah. It's a long, bad day. And by the time John gets back to the office, he's mad. He is mad. He's had just a terrible day. So he goes up to Mike, first thing, is there really a right way to do this? Is there a correct order? And Mike just shrugs and says, everybody does it a little different. And without even apologizing, gets a phone call and turns around and walks away to answer the phone. And John is steaming. But he's got to calm down because John also needs to talk to Mike about something else. So he calms himself down. And when Mike comes back, John asks, he says, hey, look, my sister is going to college in another state, and she's going to be back in town playing a soccer match in a couple of weeks. Is there any chance I could get off early? And before he can finish the sentence, Mike and everyone else within earshot starts laughing. Hell no, you can't get off. We got to make hay while the sun's shining. You can have off in winter if there's no snow, right? So now it's a whole different thing. John's kind of distraught at this point, right? Like, he's just had one of the worst days he's ever had at work. He's just been told he's not allowed to balance his personal life with his work life, his professional life. And he's frustrated. Now, all of this has happened before John's gotten a first paycheck. Think about that. This has all happened before John's gotten his first paycheck. And he's working long days, like 10, 12-hour days. Now, thanks for hanging with me through the story. I want you to just think through some things, right? If you're John, and you go to that job board, what's your initial reaction when you read these job descriptions? Are any of them particularly appealing to you? Are you like, yep, sign me up for 50 pounds in 100-degree weather. Yep, I'm there. No, right? Think through these things. How would you feel if you were John and you had waited all that time for an interview? You waited, sat there and waited and waited and waited. No one respected your time. And then you felt like the interviewer didn't take that interview seriously. Like it was a very cursory, very quick interview, right? Like I could have answered these questions online. How would you feel if you were John when he had to switch crews? Or when Tony called to complain about him? That kind of like aggressive personality that's tolerated in your company. What was his frame of mind when he wasn't allowed to go see his sister, who he hadn't seen in a couple of months because she's living out of state? And he can't get off a couple hours early on a Friday afternoon or a Thursday afternoon to go see her. And how would you feel, as I mentioned, if you had all of these things happen before you even got your first paycheck? Are you sticking around? So let's dive in. Let's talk about some of the things that we could do better so that the Johns of the world don't have this same experience, right? Because it sounds like you and I have both had these experiences. And this is actually, by the way, John's story here is a compilation of experiences from my own career in the green industry, right? So it sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not much of one. All right? So for each of these pillars, each of these topics, I'm going to tell you what it looks like when it's good. I'm going to give you a definition. I'm going to tell you what it looks like when it's good. I'm going to tell you what it looks like when it's bad. I'm going to tell you how it helps with both recruiting and retention. I'll give you a key statistic for each point, and I'm also going to give you either a story to illustrate it or an action item that you can take home and apply right away. Okay? Super practical. First thing you need to think about is a career ladder. This is like super low-hanging fruit. If you don't have one of these, please start this. The definition is creating a visual reference for how an employee moves up through the organization, including what professional milestones they need to achieve in order to be promoted. You need to have this defined if you really want people to start to get ahead and to stick around in your company. Good career ladder looks like defined duties for each level, so each person knows what's expected of them based on their job title, and defined criteria for advancement. If you want to get ahead, if you want to get to the next level, you need to complete X, Y, and Z to get promoted. This makes, by the way, if you're an owner, this makes your conversations about pay with your staff so much easier. Because when they come to you and they say, hey, I need to make more money, I would love to help you make more money. If you follow the career ladder, you can get to the next level and impact your paycheck. It's defined for them. It takes all of the ambiguity out. It helps with recruiting by showing ambitious people how they can advance, and it helps with retention because you probably already have ambitious people on your staff right now, and you want them to stay. So here's the, I'll let you get that picture in real quick. There we go. Here's the key stat. 1 in 3 workers cited lack of career advancement as the reason they were considering leaving. If you lose 10 people this year, 3 of them left because they couldn't figure out how to get ahead in your company. I actually just had this conversation this week. Single Ops has a job coming open, and I reached out to one of my professional contacts, somebody I know from the industry, who I think would do very well at my company. And I said to him, hey man, I know we talked about this a while back. You're in a good place at the company you're at now. Would you even still be interested? And his exact words to me were, I think I've topped out where I'm at. I can't see how to get ahead anymore. These people are in your companies right now, okay? How do you do this? You start at the ground level, at the most entry level of positions, and you lay out criteria. You have to define how they get ahead. What professional milestones do you want them to accomplish? If, let's say you do lawn care, right? Do they need to get their landscape industry certified lawn care professional? Do they need to get their applicator's license? What other professional milestones do they need to hit a certain criteria for the number of service calls they make, right? Like, oh, once your service call rate gets below X, because then you're reinforcing a quality issue there, right? Whatever those things are. So that's how you do that. I'll give you a quick example. This comes to me from a buddy of mine named Scott Lesak. He runs a company called Castle Rocks Landscaping in Pennsylvania. And this is his career ladder. Now, he has this 90-day probationary period thing on here. I wasn't going to give him grief about it because he let me borrow this for free. So go follow Scott Lesack on LinkedIn. But look, he has it defined from a base level with a mower, right? Like you just get hired to mow lawns. He has the hourly rate on there. He has what the professional milestones are. So like onboarding. And actually, he messaged me after he sent this to me and said, I've got safety, advanced safety and two-stroke flip-flopped in the current one. This is an older one. He said, because what I found is that people were getting certified on onboarding safety and advanced safety before they'd even been in the field. I wanted them to get in the field first. So he actually flip-flopped this. But it tells them exactly what they need to complete, the certifications they need to complete. And this is based on an internal training program they have. What certifications they need to complete and how that's going to impact their paycheck. And it shows them how to advance. Here's an example of what that looks like, right? If they're going to go from two-stroke certification, two-stroke shows them how to operate small tools and equipment. This is an internal training program, again, that they have. Teaches them how to safely mix fuel, what tools require mixed fuel, proper starting and stopping, changing a string on string trimmers, charging practice, storage practice, and basic maintenance. They're getting an education before they're allowed to, right? They pass this certification. It tells them about how long it takes, too, approximately 3 hours. And then they've immediately got an impact on their paycheck. This is a next level career ladder. I see some of my friends from R&R Landscaping here, too. Claire and Charlie Goldman have a really, really cool career ladder. Instead of, like you've all seen the organizational charts where like the owner or the boss is at the top and then everybody kind of filters down and it looks like roots on a tree, you know what I'm talking about? At R&R, they have it flipped upside down. The CEO's at the bottom. Because as people advance through the company, they want people, well, no, not downhill. What they want is they want people to see all the other people that are resting on your shoulders. Right? So like, that's an extra incentive for people who are ambitious. Like, I don't want just more responsibility for the sake of having more responsibility. It weeds out the people who are in it for the power and encourages the people who are in it for the service. Okay? Career ladder, low-hanging fruit. Go home and do it. The next one is purpose. This is like my big, I think we suck at this. We're just awful at this in the green industry, okay? Here's the idea. Giving your workforce a sense of higher purpose beyond the monetary. Helping them connect with the answer to why do we do what we do? And that answer cannot be to make more money. There's a purpose behind your business. I've never met a business owner that started a landscape company just because they were greedy. Right? Like people, we're not in this. We're in this for the environmental impact. We're in this for the ability to give back into our communities. We're in this for job creation. We're in this for other reasons, right? You have to connect the dots for your team on why you do what you do. It helps, good purpose focuses on that big picture, and tell your why in story form. I'll focus on that in a second. Bad is either focusing on the money, get to the next job, we got hay to make, blah, 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 or a failure to focus on anything. If you forget to connect the dots for your team, they're kind of floundering, they're a little lost. It helps with recruiting because from day one, you have people who are in alignment with your values. The things that are important to you, the reason you exist. If you're having that conversation in the recruiting process and people go, oh yeah, I can get excited about that, you know that that's the type of person you want working for you. It helps with retention by keeping the rock stars that you've got. It keeps them focused. Everyone's rowing in the same direction. No one's trying to go backwards while other people are trying to go forward, because that makes people uncomfortable and they'll self-eject. We'll talk about that when we get to culture. All right? So this is how it helps. This is why you tell it in story form. Facts contained in a story are 20 times more likely to be remembered than if I just throw a stat on a screen. 20 times more likely. So how do you do this? You start sharing about your positive impact. Like if your deal is, you know what, I'm passionate about the ecology, natives, I'm passionate about carbon offsets, money donated to charity, whatever it is, start telling those stories to your employees. Start telling those stories in the interview process. So I'll give you an example, right? Personalize the stories. If your deal is, let's say we're gonna help build 5 Habitat for Humanity homes every year, and we're going to do the landscaping, and we're going to give our employees time to work on those projects. When you get together as a company, you don't tell them, oh, hey, well, we're at 3 houses towards our goal, right? I mean, you can say that, but what you really want to do, if you really want it to resonate with your team, you talk about the families that live in those homes. Like we created a safe place for 3 families in our community. Those kids are going to grow up with advantages that their parents didn't have. They're going to grow up in better school districts. We're shaping the future of our community, and we're doing it as a team. And that's the other thing you have to do. You have to point out your team's role in it, right? You can't say, oh, I'm going to use R&R. I'm going to pick on you guys all afternoon, right? You can't say R&R Landscapes did this. You have to say, Jeff, you did this. You did this by your contribution to the team, all right? That helps it really connect with people and makes it personal for them. Give them a sense of purpose beyond just the next job. Culture. Everybody talks about culture. I won't hang out here forever. I've got some stories about culture that I think will drive the point home more, but let's talk about this for a minute. This definition comes from the Harvard Business Review. I love the Harvard Business Review. If you don't follow the Harvard Business Review, you should. Culture is the tacit social order of an organization. It shapes attitudes and behaviors in wide-ranging and durable ways. Here's the part I want to drill down on. Culture defines what is encouraged or discouraged, what is accepted or rejected within an organization. That's like so powerful. What is encouraged or discouraged, what is accepted or rejected within a group, right? In the same article, it said this: culture eats strategy for breakfast. It doesn't matter how good your plans are on paper if your people interactions are so poor that you can't execute it, right? Culture has to get right before strategy. Good culture is defined by trust, communication, high employee retention. If you've got low turnover, you've probably got a good culture. Toxic people self-eject. Team members go above and beyond to help one another. You've probably got a good corporate social responsibility program. If you're not familiar with CSR programs, think of like Subaru. You buy a Subaru, they automatically donate to charity. That's a CSR program, right? Bad culture is defined by fear, backstabbing, people unable to accept feedback. If you're not listening to your team's legitimate concerns, you're tolerating negative behaviors because someone's a high performer, that kills your company culture. All right? In recruiting, it helps with recruiting because you're going to get more organic referrals. People are going to want to come and work for you if you have a good culture. And retention, obviously your rock stars are going to want to stick around. Here's your key stat. Businesses with positive work cultures and highly engaged employees enjoy 100% more referrals, more applicants, excuse me. So if you had a big hiring event and you had 10 applicants, how'd you like to have 20? Work on your company culture, okay? How to do this? Give people room to speak. People have to feel free to raise ideas and suggestions for how to do things better. Adopt good ideas from your frontline workforce. Your frontline workers, the people that deal with it every day, have probably a better sense than you do as an owner or manager of things that would help streamline the process. Adopt that feedback. It's not always practical, but you have to let them speak, right? And you have to maybe work with them to tweak the idea. Conduct stay interviews. You've got people on your team that you love, that are a critical part of what you do. Instead of doing like an exit interview after they've left, do a stay interview. Figure out why they keep coming to work every day. And take that feedback from 3 or 4 or 10 of your rock stars and collate it. You'll find commonalities among why they want to work for you. Celebrate personal wins as much as professional ones, right? Like someone gets their black belt in judo, you should be throwing a party just like they got their certification, professional certification in something, right? Don't punish people for raising uncomfortable topics. Someone brings up something that you know you need to address in your company, you can't on purpose or subconsciously punish them for raising that. You know it's something that needs addressed, okay? So good and bad when it comes down to nailing this down. I've got 3 quick stories. One, I had a guy that I recruited at the landscape. I worked for a large landscaper in central Pennsylvania, 8-figure company, full service landscaper. And I had a guy that I needed on a team, and I recruited him internally. He was working in another department. He was doing very well in his other department. He came to my department. It was a much better fit, and all of a sudden, like, he was the wonder kid in the organization, right? He was just crushing it. And he lasted about a year. Somebody else from another company poached him. And during his exit interview, it was like, oh, it was really easy. Exit interviews are important because it's really easy to say, oh, well, they offered him more money, blah, 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 blah. That wasn't part of it. That was only part of it, right? What he said was, we had a sales guy who was loud. He was abusive towards his coworkers. He made women really uncomfortable. We lost some big commercial accounts because our points of contact were women, and they were creeped out by this guy. Like, just to be real, right? So when my employee left, he actually told our HR manager, he said, look, I might have left anyway, but you guys tolerating this guy made it easy for me to walk out the door. Like, if that's what we're gonna put up with just because he's a high performer, then I don't want to be a part of that company. Right? At the same company, all these stories come from the same company, by the way. At the same company, I had another guy I hired. He was a little bit older than me, and I was a little intimidated. I was younger as a manager. I was a little bit intimidated by this guy. He didn't actually need the job. He was actually independently wealthy. He owned 2 houses in the most exclusive neighborhood in our city. And I was like, all right, well, I probably should have been in there more coaching and training when he was onboarding, but I kind of just trusted he was doing the right thing. And we sent him on a seasonal layoff, and we found out he was not doing the right things. In fact, he was doing some unethical things. And the rest of my team was left to pick up the pieces. Okay, fast forward a few weeks, and this company had a Christmas breakfast every year. Now, I was out of state visiting some family, but the rest of my team showed up, and this guy who was doing these unethical things showed up to the breakfast, and just making talk with the other guys on his other teammates. He goes, hey guys, how's things going at the office, blah, blah, blah. And to a person, they all go, dude, what the were you doing? He's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And they didn't jump all over him. They didn't beat him up, but they were like, yeah, we found out you were doing all this stuff, and now we're picking up the pieces. Like, thanks for making more work. 2 days later, me and the HR manager get copied on an email where he resigns. Okay? And she was very upset with me, the HR manager. She was very upset with me. She's like, your team shouldn't have confronted him that way, blah, 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 blah. And at first, I took that to heart. And I called the guy, I texted him, I emailed him, I tried everything I could to try and reconcile this. Because I knew there was some failing on my part there too, right? Like, I knew I should have been more involved in the coaching. But at the end of the day, I finally had to go back to our HR manager, and I just said, look, it's okay that if he was doing those things, he wasn't a good fit anyway. And he was uncomfortable when he was held accountable. Right? And we replaced him with somebody who is a rock star and is still on that team today, crushing it. The last thing, real quick, good company culture story. Again, from the same place. We had a guy that worked in the field. He was in his 50s, just loved being outside. He was one of those guys you could give him like a truck and just some equipment, and he could go do like little one-off jobs by himself. He could run a crew. He was just incredibly versatile. And his adult daughter had a baby, and at like 9 months old, a year old, something like that, this baby died suddenly. Oh yeah, it was awful, dude. It was awful. Especially, I have a 2-year-old now, so now I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, that would be just horrendous, right? This baby died suddenly, and his whole family was shaken up. It was like an accident. It was some kind of tragic accident with this child. The whole family was shaken up, and he couldn't come into work. Like, emotionally, he could not come into work. And the company found a way to make it so that he could take the time he needed to heal. They let people from other departments all across the company donate PTO. Didn't matter if they were above his pay grade or below his pay grade. They made it right. They said, okay, you donate. So like, the guy ended up with like 4 weeks of vacation to get his head back on right, and then come into work. And he was still able to take a vacation with his family later that year and do a celebration of life where they all kind of grieve together as a family. That's the kind of place people want to work. Right? And I'm telling you both stories. I'm telling you the good and the bad because, like, you're not going to get it right all the time. No matter how hard you try. This place was a place that had good company culture, and they still tolerated and permitted some things that were morale killers, right? It's about working on it. It's about the process of continuing to strive for those things. The next thing, work-life balance. Work-life balance, all right? Here's the definition. I love this definition. A healthy work-life balance is one that allows a person to accomplish everything they need to do professionally while also ensuring they meet home and family obligations without burnout. That phrase, without burnout, is so critical, right? Good balance. Team members can take a vacation. They can take parental leave without fear that their job is going to be at risk or that the work is going to pile up. You need to have a support system where the team knows what they need to do to step up. Again, going back to Claire and Charlie, how many weeks did Claire miss? 5-6 weeks. She's the CEO of the company, had a medical emergency, missed 6 weeks, and the company just picked up without it, like she was never gone. That's good. It's good company culture, but that's good balance too. She was able to take care of herself. And you leave them alone, right? I know we're all guilty of this. I have bothered people on my team when I know they're out of the office. I know you have too, probably. Don't do that. That's bad. People trying to work through vacations, people constantly bothered because the business can't function without them. They feel like they have to do it. And it helps with recruiting and retention the same way that your good culture does. Word of mouth referrals, and it's going to prevent burnout on the retention side. Here's your statistic. Employee burnout accounts for between 125 and 190 billion with a B, $billion in healthcare costs every single year in the United States. We can't run people into the ground and expect them to keep working for us. Okay? How do you do this? You prioritize PTO for your team. Don't bug them while they're gone. Don't celebrate when people work through vacations. If it's at all possible, let them leave a couple hours early. Say, hey, if you want to come and make it up on a Saturday or whatever, if you need to leave early, let them have some flexibility, some control over their schedule as much as you can. I understand our business. I understand our industry. I understand the seasonality of it. You've got to try to do this anyway if you want to keep people for years and years and years. All right? I had a coworker one time that left on a vacation, and she was a very family-oriented person. She actually only worked 25, 30 hours a week. She was mom the rest of the time, stayed home with her kids. Her husband was on staff at a church, they were very family-oriented. And she went on vacation, was at the beach for a week, and the customers that I knew I interacted with, I was seeing her names on emails, and I was like, that's weird. Maybe she's just answering a handful. She came back on Monday. It turned out that she had been answering her normal, maintaining her email, her inbox, the entire week she was gone. She's supposed to be on vacation with her family. And I felt uncomfortable about this when I found out. And then at this company, we were standing there, we had a Monday morning stand-up meeting. How many of y'all do stand-up meetings, right? Get out the door quick, right? We're doing a stand-up meeting, and it came to light that she had been answering emails. Everybody started clapping. Oh, way to go. She's such a team player. I was physically ill. I was so uncomfortable. That's not the kind of culture you want. All right? Yeah, they're standing there applauding. Yeah. Oh, you didn't take actual vacation. Congratulations. You're such a team player. Do you hear how awful that sounds? Okay. Onboarding. Here's more really low-hanging fruit, folks. Okay. Good onboarding. All the activities you perform to get a new hire up to speed on the company culture and the training that they need day to day to complete their day-to-day job. All right. So get them up to speed on culture, everything they need to do their job. Good looks like training people on what they need to know about the company and how to succeed. Exceptional onboarding, and that's what we're going to talk about in this point, begins before they start. And you collect as much paperwork digitally as you can. It's 2023. You can do all of this digitally. Please try and do that. Bad onboarding is when it's left to chance. It's not thoughtful. Candidates get conflicting advice from team members. Training is 100%, we'll show you everything you need to know once you get here. People that say that very rarely have a really good training program. It helps with recruiting by helping improve your confidence, actually. You're going to be more confident that you can plug them in and they're going to be productive faster. It helps with retention because when people feel more equipped and they feel like they can contribute sooner, they feel like they're part of the team that much faster, okay? 2 key stats this time. Good onboarding can improve your retention by over 80%. If you hire 10 people this year, how'd you like to keep 8? Fix your onboarding. 70% of team members who have exceptional onboarding experiences say they have the best possible job. People will love to work for you if you put thought and time into this, okay? So how do you do this? Look, you're doing everything you do day to day, right? Like every time a crew leader comes in the morning, they're getting certain things ready, right? You have your business that functions the same way. Have them record it in 2 or 3 minute videos. This is how you start the string trimmer. This is how you start the mower. This is how we hitch the trailer. This is how we secure the equipment onto the trailer. This is how we unload it. Take those videos, put them in like a Google Drive file, and send that to candidates before they start. Those videos won't take time. I had this happen with a business that had a proprietary software. They were the only people in the world. They built the software themselves. They were the only people in the world that used this software. And I was a little bit anxious about using it. They sent me a training video. Before I even started, I watched it. It took me 10 minutes. And I walked in day one. Now, were there nuances I had to learn? Of course. Are there things you're still going to have to teach people? Of course. But let's not leave it up to chance. And let's give them something to refer back to once they're actually on the job, right? Ask outsiders that you trust. Ask somebody you know to walk through the candidate process and give you feedback. Create space for new hires to give you feedback. I had a boss one time, a week in, end of the first week I was at this company, he took me out to lunch and he said, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I know sometimes it's intimidating when other people are in the office and they overhear you. I wanted to give you a safe place to ask any questions so you don't feel dumb. Okay? Super smart. So good. I've told you the story about the good onboarding experience where they sent me this video ahead of time. Here's the other thing you need to think about. You need to think about practically explaining how your values are lived out. So this same company with the proprietary software, someone in an extremely senior leadership position sat down with me day one. It was my very first official meeting as a company. And he said, here are our company values. And he went through each of them with me. And he said, do you have a problem with any of those? And I said, no, those are great. I'm on board. Let's go. I'm ready to go. One of those values was positivity, okay? Great. I'm actually, if you talk to me, Brian, my coworker, Brian, am I a positive person? Most of the time. Most of the time. Thanks, Brian. Way to submarine my presentation. No, I'm a pretty positive person. So I was like, yeah, I can get on board with this. When I got my only review at that company, because I didn't even last a year after this, I got feedback that my coworkers perceived me as super negative because I tend to process my frustrations verbally. And then I get that like kind of poison out of my system, and then I can focus on fixing it, right? I get the frustration out, verbalize it, and then I'm done. The practical application of positivity at this company was that we never say negative things out loud. No one explained that to me until 7 months in when I'm getting my first review, okay? You have to explain how those values are lived out. If one of your values is integrity, you have to explain it. Integrity looks like we self-report damage on a property. You're never going to be punished for that. But we need to know because that's an important value our company has. Explain to them how they can live out that value day to day, okay? Pay and benefits. I'm not going to hang out here forever. Y'all know what pay and benefits are. Competitive in your market. Good pay and benefits are competitive with similar physicality and similar level of injury risk. So if you're hiring skilled workers like arborists, you need to have them competitive with electricians, for example. Bad is paying as little as possible. Helps with recruiting by ensuring you don't lose out to other blue-collar industries and ensuring that your team doesn't leave for better pay. Here's your stat. Fast food workers in the US make $2.29 more an hour than landscapers. Wow. This is original research I did on a website called talent.com. And you can search by job title. It tells you the salary. Yes, I went through all 50 states. For some reason, I couldn't get Indiana. That's a long story. It tells you the average number of job openings with that title in each state and the high and low, right? So for across the US, there were an average of 336 fast food job openings in the US. So that's a pretty big data set in each state. $17.20 was the average salary for fast food workers. Landscapers, $14.91 was the average that we're offering people to come work in our industry. People I hate the people don't want to work. People want to work. They're going to work where they get paid. General laborers, the people that literally pick up 2x4s and move them from one side of the construction site to the other, are making 38 cents an hour more than landscapers. Please don't tell me they don't want to work. All right? According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average landscaping and groundskeep worker makes 35 grand a year. That's not a lot of money. That's the average across the U.S. If you don't know how to do this, there's a tool called the Living Wage Calculator. I will send you the link. All right? It tells you by your state, city, and county what people need to make in order to survive. This is not the poverty line. This is like how to have a normal life. Okay? Last thing, marketing. Please, people, let's get better at marketing. Let's get better at marketing because this will help you not only grow your business, it will help you with recruiting, I promise. I'm going to skip the definition because I have to explain it, but it's there. If you want these notes, I will send them to you. But it's basically the process of creating and communicating offerings that have value for partners. In this case, creating messaging that has value for people that might possibly work for you, right? It helps with good marketing. You have to understand who your average recruit is. What is the person that comes to work for you look like? And then you can create messages that resonate with them. Bad is just posting jobs on ZipRecruiter that look like this, or Indeed that look like this, right? So again, don't tell me people don't want to work. How about $12 to $18 an hour to install paver patios, walls, and water features at $12 an hour? Who's signing up for that? Not me. I pulled this off of Indeed about 3 weeks ago in my local market in Ohio. That's where I live right now, okay? Wild. And people don't want to work. Don't tell me they don't want to work. Anyway, it helps with recruiting by ensuring the people you want to target are the ones who see your messaging, and it helps with retention because you understand what's important to your existing team and you can craft messages that keep them in alignment. 60% of companies do not have a long-term internal communication strategy. That's shocking. It's cheaper to keep the people that you've got than it is to go out and recruit new ones. Figure out how to talk to your existing team and keep their values aligned, keep them excited about the mission, and you will keep more of your employees and you'll have to recruit less. So how to do this? In marketing, we do an exercise called the ideal customer profile, where you figure out all the commonalities. Who do we want to buy from us? And you create this profile. It's like an imaginary person where you think about their identity. Are they married or not? Do they have kids? What's their job industry they work in? What's their home value? How much money do they make? How do they vote? Do they vote Republican or Democrat, right? You create this person, and you say, that's the person I want to target. And then you write ad copy, you write ads, you do creatives, postcards, magazine ads, digital display ads that speak to that person. Why aren't we doing this with candidates? I've heard HR managers say, oh, I want everyone to apply. No, you don't. You do not want Jay Worth to come apply to work at your company, I promise you. I'm a big wuss. I complain a lot when I'm out in the field. I do it. I love it at the end of the day, but I complain when I'm in the field, and you probably can't afford me as a frontline worker, right? Like, I'm not going to come there. You don't want an octogenarian who just needs extra income to come apply to lift 50 pounds and stand out in the sun all day, right? You don't want everyone to apply. So you need to drill down that messaging really finely. Candidate experience. We talk about customer experience. How do people experience buying with us? You need to think about the same thing with candidates. What is the experience they have from start to finish until they're onboarded and actively working in your company? So you learn how to use empathy, understand what drives people, and craft messaging, create content that draws them into your company. So remember John? We all remember John? Keep John smiling. Keep John happy. And you will win more often at recruiting and retention. If you have questions, I will be around. I know I've probably hit my time limit right now, but thank you so very much. I appreciate it.